Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Novak, and I'm reporting from the Delphi Economic Forum on behalf of Vήμα International Edition. And today we're very happy to welcome Εύα Δουζίνα. Εύα Δουζίna is the CEO of the Rauch Foundation. Eva, welcome to the Delphi Economic Forum, and thank you for taking time to speak with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Eva, even though you're from the United States, you have emerged as one of the strongest voices and opponents of the Greek fish farming industry. Can you tell us some more about how you became interested in fish farming?
Yes. My family's from the island of Poros, which is how I first learned about the plan, which is a really extreme plan to expand industrial fish farming by 24 times in area and approximately 4 times in production. On Poros, it would have taken 25% of the coastline. So at the time, I really had the opportunity to focus with the foundation on trying to understand what we learned and what we could learn about what does this actually mean. At the time, I had the impression that it was a sustainable industry because of the narrative that's been promoted over about 30 years that fish farming is a solution to overfishing. But what we really saw is that there's a huge stark reality between what's promoted by the industry and government bodies versus what the lived experience is and what's really the reality behind the production model. And because this gap was just so large and we really saw it being under-focused and there not being enough truly independent research, almost all research is industry funded. And even if it's funded by government bodies, it's to the same researchers that are being funded by the industry. So we felt that we could contribute to this dialogue, and also there's a very widespread grassroots movement across Greece. The island of Poros has been fighting for about 15 years. The community of Xyromero for over 20 years. Other communities in Lesbos, Salamina, Evia have all been, there were all these widespread grassroots movements, and we thought, let's just look into this. This really seems like there's a problem there. And the fact is that it's an industry that has compounds waste year after year, destroying the local ecosystems where it's based. It depends on an extractive model where it takes more wild fish from the seas to feed a smaller quantity of farmed fish, and the waste remains in the areas where the fish is farmed.
So let's move back a little bit more, backtrack to as you started telling about your story. I've heard you speak about it, and you've mentioned that you feel that there's a lack of transparency in the process when it comes to the public consultation element. Can you tell us more about what you saw in Poros and what you've seen happening in other regions?
So what happens is, with no notice, there's approximately 1,000-page environmental impact statement that's been commissioned by the industry and it's posted to a website, the Ministry of the Environment's website, often right before a holiday season or in the middle of the peak summer season, with 30 days for a community to respond to this really dense scientific text that is, as just happened in Ambrakikos, was a photograph document. So you can't even use a OCR tool to kind of analyze the text. You can't click on any of the hundreds of links that they have inside because it's all inaccessible text. The other parts is that it took us as a foundation with more resources and international access months to find a qualified aquaculture specialist to review the EIAs. So communities really have no chance in the world to understand what they're reading and to reply in a knowledgeable way. And what our analysis showed, and we've analyzed 15 EIAs across Greece, and between 70 and 90% of data of standardly included environmental impact data is excluded from the reports. In only 1/3 of the reports we found, they used a predictive model to show what kind of damage would happen if these expansions would take place. And even in the case where they used the model, they left out the legend to explain most of the model, so you don't know what a number means, because it could be just like, like if you had blood sugar of 300 and the doctor didn't tell you that 80 and 100 was normal, you would have no idea what the data you're getting is. So And we found that once we actually went to the model designer himself, and he said that 99% of the recommended scenarios for production include a high to severe marker of environmental harm, and 77% predict severe harm. And these EIAs are making it through 40, an extraordinary number of checks and balances supposedly in the process to reach the community, yet at no point is this being questioned. And so it really raises, not only does the community have no chance to understand and respond to these in a knowledgeable way, but also it raises into question who's reviewing these and what skill level do they have to actually understand what they're reading.
In here, if I may interrupt you, you've also talked about conflict of interest in the way that the aquaculture zones are proposed and established and monitored. Can you explain what you mean in terms of conflict of interest?
So if within a short time, you'll realize that the same actors, you'll find them at every stage of the process. The companies commission the EIAs. The EIA consultant writers act as not only the scientists writing these reports, but also as industry spokesmen. The zones are managed by supposed to be an independent management body, but in all cases, it's members of the companies themselves. And so you have the companies self-monitoring their environmental impact. And in many cases, it's just one person. And even the head of the Industry Association for Greece serves on 5 different 5 different management bodies across Greece. We also see that the same scientists are used by industry-funded research and EU-funded research. So it's a very small selection of scientists. A lot of the data in the EIAs is 30 years old or more. You can't find data that's less than 9 to 10 years old. And so we have a real concentration of knowledge that's in people that are and the universities in Greece are funded by the industry. We as an organization tried to commission research with aquaculture specialists in Greece, and they wouldn't work with us because they felt that it was a conflict of interest for them to do research on the environmental impacts of aquaculture.
So with everything that you learned through this journey, which is highly technical and complex, what would you say needs to be changed to ensure that fish farming is more sustainable, if it can be, or at least the aquaculture industry in Greece?
So there needs to be a lot of different number one, we need a definition from the EU on what sustainable aquaculture means, and so that it's has environmental integrity, it's economically viable and socially fair, and has the regulation aligned with it to make sure that those 3 aspects are being met. Right now, there's no definition of sustainable aquaculture from the EU. The current aquaculture policies vary very greatly across the EU. Greece is the only country that allows fish farms within 50 meters of shore, while in Cyprus they are 4,000 meters from shore. So I think that there needs to be immediate improvement to the regulations so that at least the basic regulations match best practices, and I think there needs to be a halt to expansion of the farming of carnivorous fish, and we should redirect investment to truly sustainable types of aquaculture like seaweed farming and bivalve farming, or even to other sectors that have a real growth opportunity. A lot of people aren't aware of even the economic story around fish farming in Greece is being very misrepresented. There's not been a single new job in aquaculture in Greece for over 22 years, despite hundreds of millions of EU subsidies and Greek subsidies. Numerous businesses have been going bankrupt. The largest company in Greece owes over 500 million to the Greek banks and is being sold for less than half of its loans. So we're talking about an industry that absorbs tremendous amount of public funds, hasn't created a new job in over 22 years, and takes public resources and instead of feeding them into more sustainable industries or into restoration or into growth industries for Greece that could help bring young people back to the country, it's redirecting it into an industry that has not created a single new job and will result in massive environmental harm to what is really the identity of Greece, the clean blue waters, and I think a key part of our culture, and just an activity that really just doesn't make sense in the end if you really look at the facts.
So if I can summarize your position, you're pro different forms of aquaculture, but not for open pen fish farming as it's being done in Greece right now.
Correct.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time, Eva. I hope you enjoy the rest of your meetings at the forum, and we look forward to continuing our conversation on fish farming in Greece.
Thank you so much.